Greetings, R. Frederick Riddle here with another episode of Christian News and Views. This is episode 26, 133, and this is Wednesday, and I've titled this Iran Update. President Trump threatened to destroy Iranian infrastructure if Iran attacks vessels transiting the Strait of Hormuz. In the latest sign, he is planning to escalate the conflict. Trump wrote on Truth Social on Wednesday that the U.S. will bomb and destroy one bridge or power plant, including infrastructure in or near Tehran, every time Iran shoots at a ship in the strait. The president's comments are the latest indication that the two countries might return to full-scale war. On Tuesday, he said U.S. military forces would likely attack Iran's Pickaxe Mountain, the underground site where Israeli intelligence believes Iran has buried advanced nuclear enrichment centrifuges pretty soon. Trump's threats come days after Iran launched a barrage of missile and drone attacks against U.S. bases in Jordan. 3 soldiers were killed there in a strike that hit containerized housing units where the troops lived and slept. A 4th service member was killed last week in Iraq during a controlled detonation of unexploded ordnance from a downed Iranian drone. Since then, the U.S. military has launched multiple rounds of strikes that officials said were intended to degrade Iran's ability to attack commercial shipping in the strait. After the soldier's death, Trump threatened on social media to retaliate. Every time Iran kills an American soldier, they will pay for that killing many times over. This directive has been passed on to Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff Daniel Kane, and every leader in the military, Trump wrote. Trump's threats to strike Iranian infrastructure raise legal questions, including whether doing so violates the laws of war. Current and former military officials caution that it isn't lawful to strike an adversary's infrastructure for political purposes. While power plants are usually considered to be civilian infrastructure, they can qualify as legitimate military targets if they can be used for military purposes. Under the law of armed conflict, striking power infrastructure is permissible if it makes a concrete contribution to a military operation and the potential harm to civilians is minimized. American forces have already stepped up attacks in recent weeks, bombing infrastructure, including bridges that officials say Iran is using to move military equipment, as well as radars and missile and drone launch sites near the strait. Iran has effectively halted traffic through the vital waterway that before the war carried a fifth of the world's oil by launching drones and missiles at commercial ships, roiling the global economy. An average of just 10 ships a day crossed Friday through Sunday, according to ship tracker Kepler. Iran has also threatened to charge tolls for ships transiting the waterway. Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels on Monday announced a blockade of Saudi shipping, threatening the oil flow through the alternative routes such as the Red Sea and the Bab el-Mandeb Strait amid a separate conflict with the kingdom. Wednesday's strikes by the U.S., the 11th consecutive night of bombing, targeted Iranian military operations centers, maritime capabilities, aircraft hangars, drone storage facilities, and military logistics infrastructure, according to U.S. Central Command. Bombing Pickaxe Mountain, which lies on the south side of Iran's Natanz nuclear enrichment site, would mark a new phase of escalation since the two sides reached a tenuous ceasefire in April. It isn't clear what is inside the mountain, as the international nuclear inspectors haven't been allowed into the site. But Israeli intelligence indicates Iran moved some of its centrifuges there last fall, after the U.S. and Israel bombed Tehran's three main nuclear sites during the 12-day war last year, the journal previously had reported. It isn't clear whether the U.S. munitions could penetrate deeply enough into the site to destroy their centrifuges if they are buried there. American forces could instead destroy the entrances and tunnels to the site to block access to the centrifuges, as they have done with other underground nuclear sites, according to experts. The military options here aren't great. The site is likely too deeply buried for U.S. munitions to penetrate, so it can't be destroyed. Excuse me. Negotiations for a permanent agreement have repeatedly failed, including a preliminary peace deal signed by both sides in June. Most recently, Qatar has floated the idea of a new 10-day ceasefire and an end to restrictions on shipping in the strait as an interim measure to cool tensions. But it wasn't clear whether either side was ready to accept a new halt to the fighting. Speaking earlier on Wednesday, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the U.S. remains open to a diplomatic settlement, but Iran doesn't appear serious about a renewed ceasefire. So now we're moving into my opinion of all this. And as always, you're free to disagree. But I've been around for a little while, and so I've seen a lot of things happen, and some things work and some things don't. But here's my opinion. The war with Iran, which began in 1979, that's about 47 to 48 years ago, changed in 2025 and 26. With the way that the American government has responded to Iranian use of terrorists against the U.S., but also is constantly shifting into deeper resolve that has to worry Iranian leadership. Let me change that a little bit. It's not just the terrorist use, it is the nuclear. Now, some people are saying they were never that close, but they actually were. That's been widely proven. They were only days away from being able to launch missiles against American targets, maybe even right here in America itself. And so the threat was real, the danger was real. There's a lot of liberals out there, including in the media, which are trying to dismiss that. But don't fall for that, folks. This was real. The threat was real. The danger was real. And it's still, if they have underground nuclear places, that means they have the ability to return to that. We don't know how far much about what's going on in that side of that mountain there. Just as an aside, when I first read the name of that mountain, Pickaxe Mountain, I thought, wow, that'd make a great movie. So I'm not surprised. Wouldn't be surprised if one comes out called that Pickaxe Mountain. But that's another story. With the U.S. Stepping up its attacks and now including infrastructure previously deemed untouchable, it is dramatically increasing the cost that Iran is already suffering. With underground silos and other hidden assets, Iran has regarded itself as indestructible. But now that may be changing as well. It has been attacking ships with apparent disregard for consequences. But this new strategy seems to be one that will have the effect of dramatically raising the bar of those consequences. For every American soldier killed, there will be a direct consequence, and it will hurt. For every ship attacked, there will be a direct consequence, and it will hurt. Yes, it will probably hurt civilians, but these civilians asked for our help and so far have not responded like we hoped they would. Of course, they are afraid of the consequences that the Revolutionary Guard might impose if they rebel. Now, they can and will fear the consequences of United States military action if they don't rebel. They're given a choice. I think it is unfortunate, but a necessary action to encourage the Iranian people to do what is best for their nation than what is convenient and safe. I am, of course, assuming they have weapons hidden somewhere. We don't have any way, you and I don't have any way of knowing that. The government may, our government may. And maybe there's a few people still not been sent to prison camps who know a little bit of guerrilla warfare. However, I'd like to remind you, guerrilla warfare worked in World War II, and the people there didn't have, to my knowledge, didn't have any previous knowledge of it. They went out and learned along the way, if you might say, under fire. And it worked. Why not now in Iran? If the Iranian people want a free and democratic government, then they will have to step up. America won its independence because men and women stepped up and fought. And I might add, we actually had foreign interference. France, we invited them and they came and they helped us. But we ended up being the ones that, well, actually, you could argue that both ways because the French fleet came and was able to distract the British excuse me, at the very least. So what we did and what the French did combined together brought about the independence of the American people. And many good people lost their lives in that war. And many good people will lose their lives in Iran. But out of their deaths can spring something new. Freedom comes at a cost. We forget that. 250 years ago, it was real. Now we live in relative peace, an occasional terrorist act here or there, but generally some kind of form of peace. We tend to forget what the cost of freedom is. But it does cost, and it costs us. We have to be alert. We have to be armed and ready. That's why we have a military, and we need to support that military and keep it strong. The Iranians, if they want peace, they have to do something. If they do nothing, they can expect things to get worse. But if they take a stand, there is the possibility of regime change. And if that occurs, there is the possibility of positive change. So that's my opinion. And again, if you disagree, feel free to say so. Keep it, keep it, um, keep it, keep it kind. um, don't be crude, don't be rude, or anything like that. But you're free to offer your disagreement. I would say though, if you're going to disagree, give some good concrete reasons why. But the thing is that the Iranian people, they've demonstrated that they desire independence. But when the Revolutionary Guard cracked down on them, they seem to disappear. Now, I don't think they've already disappeared, then they're probably underground. And they actually may be doing individual acts of bravery. I have no way of knowing. But they need to step up. If they are there, they need to step up and do something. Perhaps it's just maybe intelligence gathering from either Israeli or American interests. But I think they need to step up publicly too. Wouldn't it be interesting if they attacked and actually captured weapons and so forth from the Revolutionary Guard and made the Revolutionary Guard pay, its leaders especially, pay for what they're doing? These are criminals. These are not patriots that are the Revolutionary Guard. They are out and out criminals, murderers, if you will, rapists. They are the lowest scum of society, and they need to be dealt with. And the Iranian people have the one asset they have that we don't have is that they're right there, and they can take action. They probably know who's who and what and who to blame and who to hold responsible. So I think that they need to step up. And I don't have any plan for them. I'm not there. But they are. They know what's going on, and they know probably have a pretty good idea of some weak spots that can be taken advantage of. Weak spots that will undermine the government, weak spots that will endanger the leadership. Well, that's it for today. This is a podcast that is sponsored by TNR Independent Books. If you are a Christian and you want to be a published author, well, TNR Independent Books is a Christian indie publisher, and we want to be able to help you. If you don't know how to write, we have a writing course called Basic Authors Training. If you do know how to write, then you can go directly to the publishing aspect, and that's called ministry publishing. The standard's really low, folks. If you're a Christian and you are serving the Lord in your church, even if all you're doing is going and mowing the lawn or washing some dishes, or maybe you're working in the nursery or something of this nature, something voluntary, you're not getting paid for it, or you might be getting paid for it. I don't care. We want to talk to you. So if you're looking for a publisher, we are a source that you should consider at trbookservices.com/shop, and then go to our writing department and you'll see the services that we offer. BAT, if you want to learn how to write and get published, ministry publishing, if you know how to write and want to get published. Well, you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.